Nice, please, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Call the meeting to order and determine quorum with a roll call. Councilor Baumgartner, here. Evers here. Ferguson is not yet here.
She is attending online.
Oh. Right, I am here and Patterness is not yet here. We do have a quorum, we'll begin the meeting. Right now, we'll actually suspend the regular meeting and open up the public forum. This is the period of time when the public is invited to engage and address council. We do ask that when addressing council, you provide your name for the meeting minutes. Speaking times will be limited to 3 minutes. After which time we can direct staff or have council follow up with the public to ensure that concerns are met. So yeah, this is the time for the public to address council. Anybody online looking to address council? Not seeing any movement there, so we'll close the public forum. Open up the regular meeting again and begin with the setting of the agenda. We've all had an opportunity to look the agenda over. Are there any additions or subtractions? Anybody want to pull anything out of the consent agenda? If not, I'll take action, or I'll call for action to approve the agenda.
So moved. Sorry.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Evers to approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda's been set. Moving down to the consent agenda, it includes the meeting minutes from October 7, Resolution 107, the step movement for Andrea Tauber, Resolution 108, the accepting of donation from the Sons of the American Legion, Resolution 109, establishing procedures relating to compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under Internal Revenue Code, Resolution 110, calling for a public hearing for the assessment relating to unpaid lawn mowing fees located at 905 Depew Avenue West. Resolution 111, calling for a public hearing for the assessments relating to the costs associated with the raising of a hazardous structure located at 101 3rd Street South. Resolution 112, calling for a public hearing for the assessments relating to the costs associated with the raising of a hazardous structure located at 311 5th Street South. Resolution 113, calling for a public hearing for the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 118. The first reading of ordinance 9, amending Chapter 118 of the Olivia City Code regarding cannabis and hemp business. Resolution 114, the final approval of the Depew Avenue Improvement Project. Certificate of final approval for the Depew Avenue Improvement Project, our annual cold weather policy, and an airfield pavement crack seal project application for permit number 2. That's the consent agenda. I would happily entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Evers, seconded by Baumgartner to approve the consent agenda as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries as written. Thank you for making me repeat that. Discussion items. We are going to close the regular meeting and open up a public hearing for the assessment of unpaid refuse charges during this public hearing. We'll have a temporary recess of the meeting. We'll receive some staff reports. We'll receive public comments, and then we will close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting back up. So at this time, we'll invite Don and his crew up here to engage us on unpaid.
You can add a second chair.
Reference.
I can sit here, so I can reach it for
City Council, good to see you again tonight, beautiful fall night. So should have a list in front of you of unpaid refuse charges, which we do every year about this time. Looking into most of the accounts, it's a lot of people on the base level of service and I see a lot of repeat names. I think it's just how they decide to pay their bill for whatever reason. Everybody got notice on September 30th. A letter was sent out saying they could attend the meeting. And we're here to answer any questions if anyone is in attendance for it. And then nothing gets assessed until the end of the month, October 31st. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask us.
Any council or staff have any questions about the assessment of unpaid refuse charges? Anybody from the public here to address unpaid refuse assessment charges? Anybody virtual here to address unpaid refuse? Okay, it looks like we have our public comments received. It was not very much.
That's pretty normal to the
Okay,
Anything else I can do for you guys, as issues that we should address?
anybody wants to know anything? Everything's been great, I think.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay. Moving down to line item 5B, the Dirks ballpark improvements.
Sure, so, Public Works has been, looking at the state of our fences throughout the city parks. And one fence, identified as needing the most improvement would be our Dirks ballpark. I believe it's the Little League field, is that correct, George? That's what it's used for, Little League? And so there's a memo in your packets that describes kind of the scope of the project. So it's a Dirks, it's a 4-foot new fence fabric and top rail on the right field. It's the Dirks bottom rail, sidelines and outfield. It's the Dirk backstop, which is 10 feet tall, 6-gauge wire. The total project cost is $22,600. And this does fit within the park's budget. There was a great discussion at the last park board meeting talking about really making sure that we're focusing on maintaining what we have. So Craig has put together a list of priorities for the next couple of years to tackle this in bite-sized chunks. So he has a plan kind of from now to 2027, 2028 of things to address. And this one was identified as the top priority.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any council have any questions or comment on the concept of upkeeping the fences at Dirks ballpark?
Glad we're taking care of our community assets.
Any other comment or questions about
Mayor.
No. Sorry.
This is outside of the fence, but when you talked about a list of priorities for improvements or repairs, I'm wondering if the concession stand / bathrooms are in that schedule for maintenance or repairs?
Thank you, Mary Jo. We're not taking public comment at this moment, but we'll definitely engage with you offline here. All right. Any other conversation or discussion about the fences at Dirks Park? Okay, we'll call for a motion to approve this project.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Paternoss to approve the Dirks Park fence project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving down to reports. We had a planning commission meeting last week. Basically, we talked about planning and zoning items as it pertains to a new potential county workshop. Talked about cannabis registration, how those items relate to planning and zoning. And had a conversation about accessory dwelling units. The PUC also had a meeting. I was not at that one.
I was at that one, so the PUC took their opportunity for their October meeting to do kind of a public utilities 101. There are a lot of new members on that board, and so to bring them up to speed, it was purely an informational meeting where they got to learn about the different utilities in the city, the history of those utilities, and upcoming utility projects.
EDA had a meeting.
The majority of the discussion was, housing project on Fairview. Also the old, hospital lots, basically the developer, he's done pretty much everything he possibly can to market. Trying to sell those lots to build homes, had very unfortunate, a lot of interest, a lot of. People saying they wanna do it, but no actual action on it. We discussed a lot of different options. There's more discussion that's gonna need to be had. Or one thing that was brought up was possibly looking at multifamily housing, at that location. But we do have a meeting this Wednesday that, I think we're gonna continue that discussion. That took up pretty much the whole meeting, so. Bottom line is, people want housing, but unfortunately, nobody either has the ability to pay for it or can afford to pay for it, so.
Seems to be about it.
Does the city own that block of land there, or is that owned by the developer?
We're currently in an agreement with the developer. It's coming towards the end of that agreement, so part of the housing discussion is whether to continue working with the developer, open it up again. Things like that, so that's being discussed at the EDA level.
Has EDA owned property?
Yes, it was.
Okay, any other questions about the staff committee reports? Any other reports from the staff?
City Hall project continues to go underway. We had some issues with our phones because the phone lines running to that building needed to be undergrounded for the City Hall project. Our phones are back up and running. A lot of the interior framing has been done in the building, and then they're working on digging for the south and the east for those additions. And then tomorrow we have our box walk where we go through the current building and talk about the placement of outlets and things like that. They're still projecting an early spring back date.
Perfect. That's fast moving. Okay, under notices and communication. We need to determine a date for the cannabis board meeting. That's when we all gather to approve the results of the local, like Olivia election. So we need to do that someday between November 8 and 15. If you'll all get your calendars out.
So what works best for people? I should note on the 12th, we have planning commission. And on the 13th, we do have PUC. We can obviously start earlier than that. PUC starts at 6. Planning commission, there was a discussion about having a work session before then, which would also start around 6.
This is like a 10-minute process, right?
I'm hopeful it's very short. So it could be at 5 or 5:30 on any of those days, depending upon, we can't hold it on a federal holiday, which is Monday, Veterans Day.
How does Tuesday the 12th work for you all to meet at 5:30 for just a short period of time to analyze, review, and approve the results of the local election?
Yes.
That's great.
Okay, very good.
Thank you all.
Another piece of communication, this Thursday night, the chamber is holding an event for folks who identify as women in town called Witches Night Out. You identify as a witch that night, I suppose?
Yeah.
And I believe that begins downtown at 6 p.m. Does that sound right?
5 or 6, let me check the calendar.
Well, those who identify as witches on Thursday can put a cake.
Hopefully they won't cause any additional trouble. I don't think they will. 5 to 8. Yep, 5 to 8.
So we'll invite you all witches to participate in that. All right. With no further business to come before the council, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
Motion's been made by Evers, seconded by Adams to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries, we are adjourned, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.